Okay, good evening everybody, and welcome to the OTR E-racing racecraft clinic. This is week 2. Last week James ran through various techniques related to racecraft, like drafting, bridging, entering corners, and because it was the first week, he's going to allow this evening about the first 30 minutes of the session for people just to familiarize themselves with what they were shown last week. And then he's going to start the tutorial on finding an inside line. So I'm listening to James over on Discord. You may occasionally hear the audio interrupting our feed here. But basically, I'm going to have to mute the Discord from time to time, so that I can tell you what's going on. Excuse me. Tell you what's going on with the tactics here on the road. Now I'm going to be able to follow as you can see the camera moving around. I'm going to be able to follow the action and follow the riders by switching groups, but I actually have to be a member of the event, so I have to be an active rider. You can see me on the front row there in the Team 3R kit. I think the Team 3R rider on the back row on the left is possibly Luke, but yeah, I've got to be part of the event, so I've got to try and remember to jump on the bike every 30 minutes, and that will keep me in the event. This is a new event type of coverage for me. I've covered races before, but this is going to be a bit different because I'm going to try and stay with the main, with James, who's going to be the main instructor. So there's a very good chance that once we get underway and I can switch riders, I'll try to highlight James. And you can see him posting in the chat now. James is going to spend the first 30 minutes basically letting you recap on last week. We've got a good turnout. I don't know how many bots have been programmed, but it's a good turnout. And no, it's not an all-out start, Mr. Borders, but it is quite a high pace. I found last week the average pace was about 2.8 3 watt kilo, and I just found that a little bit too much for myself. So I ended up slipping back and riding with some of the bots a bit lower down the field. Okay, the group ride's about to start, so I'm going to jump on the bike. And then we'll see how it goes. Yeah, James says whatever pace suits, but basically try to get yourselves into a group that suits the pace that you're wanting to ride at. As I say, I'll try as best I can to get to James once we're underway. Okay, just get past the start line, pull over to the side of the road, and then we'll get to the front of the ride and see if we can pick up James. So, end will take me. Ginsberg has gone off like a cat out of hell, but who have we got? Let's have a look. You can see I'm having to flick through the riders now one at a time. That's the way the software works. It doesn't allow me to select riders. I have to actually go through the riders one at a time. There's James. Okay, so I'm now managed to highlight James, which means I can basically zoom in and out on James, and as he's explaining what he's doing, I can zoom out and we can watch the group. And I'm actually going to turn back on Discord, so the noise you hear in the background is going to be possibly chatter going on in Discord. So I've turned back on Discord. You may well hear some feedback now. The ride's underway.
If anybody hasn't already got it enabled, can you please enable your audio suppression on Discord? It's in the settings.
Yeah, I automatically use NVIDIA Broadcast, which has got noise suppression built in, so it's not me that's making squeaking.
That's obvious me that's squeaking, but I've got mine on already. But there's a few other people as well, I think. It's not too bad, but it's just nicer for everybody if you can keep the noise down a little bit.
Yeah. For anybody that's running a PC setup with Discord, you might want to try NVIDIA Broadcast noise suppression, because it's absolutely phenomenal. You can be running vacuum cleaners in the background and you won't hear them over the audio. And it would remove that squeaking we're hearing now. Okay, folks, so you can see that James is currently being dropped from the front of the pack. So perhaps he's going to give us a lesson on bridging. He's been joined by two of the bots. Oh no, one bot and one live and LeBlanc. So
my plans are so I'm doing texting and was going quite slowly for the first half an hour. And then I'll be getting into action in the second half an hour.
yeah, I've explained that over the feed, James. So just to recap, folks, that's what James is about in this first 30 minutes. He's going to let people basically catch up on what they did last week, get into a nice rhythm, and then he'll start the instructions after about the 30-minute point. And that should give time for the groups to basically come back together as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch from James and find out what's happening further up the field. So we'll head to the front of the pack. There we go. And we've got one of the bots, Jan, out front. And then the main group is just behind him, just catching up with him now. And in the main group, you've got Borders, B Borders, you've got Argante, you've got Sandra and Birch. And they're about, and Rob Stone is just coming up to them, bringing a second group up to the front group. So Rob Stone is closing the gap now with a few other riders. So expect this front pack all to come together, which is what they're actually doing now. So if you want to see how gaps are closed, Rob Stone's your man to watch. He's just come past and gone out the front. So it's nice to see the drafting going on in this front group. You can actually see the riders that are taking turns coming through and off, and the riders at the back pulling up on the wheels and then coming through the middle of the pack. So some good technique being shown here. But if you watch the more experienced riders. I'll see if I can actually highlight one of either Luke, which is who's wearing the Team 3R. Let's see if we can find Luke. There we go. So Luke, who's wearing the Team 3R kit, you can see that he's very experienced at drafting, and he's actually drafting Rudy now. Sorry, Uriel now, who's pulling 2.9 watt kilo. But look at the difference in wattages when Luke actually gets on the wheel. You can see that although Uriel is pulling 2.9 watt kilos, Luke's able to pull as little as 2 watt kilos. So that's a significant saving by doing this drafting that he's doing. In fact, he's down to 1.9 watt kilos now. And he's demonstrating just how effective drafting is. And the bots are perfect to draft because they stick at a set wattage. They're called bots in RGT, but I call them pace partners. That's what we used to call them over on Swift. And the bots or the pace partners here on RGT are head and shoulders above what you get over on Swift, because they stick to the wattage, and the drafting actually works here. There's none of this sticky nonsense that you get on the other platform. So a really good example of how to save wattage and how to ride. Look how close he's maintaining to Uriel. And look at when he puts in an effort when going around the corners to come onto the inside line. So Luke's a really good example of how to use the techniques that James been teaching. He missed it that time, but on most of the corners, Luke's actually taking the inside line. Okay, let's find out what's happening further up the field. And James has now joined the front group. Or is it the second group on the road? But whatever, I've just spotted him right at the back, so he's obviously closing up. And it looks like people are getting warmed up and settling down, so hopefully. I'm actually going to try now and pick up James once again. He's just beyond. Look.
So the benefit of the audio then, just kicks off the structure up in practice. So maybe not, or not the first thing you do is try and, if you can, just up their back wheel without pushing over. And then kind of play around with how much power you put down to see how little you can get away with putting out, still staying just off the back. You can try and keep it within 3 meters.
Okay, folks, I'm allowing the audio to come through from James so that you can hear his instructions. There we are. There's James there. So let's see if we can. Okay. Okay, let's just zoom out and see where the rest of the pack is really. James looks to be on his own at the moment, as you can see. I've zoomed right out, and he's a good way behind the tail end of the group in front. So he's got a fair bit of work to do here to pull back the gap.
Sit up and wait for the Hoots and Ginsberg to catch up with me, I think.
Yeah, you might be as well doing that, James, because there's only a couple of bots in front of you, and the group behind is quite significant. So it might be worth waiting for the group behind to join you. They're on the way now.
Sorry, I didn't catch that. You're in the first group and you're coming round, did you say?
Just ease up a little bit, just to allow it all to come back together. You can see that there's a large group behind James now. So it's going to come back together very quickly now. There's James is riding with two bots, but he's got a very large group coming up behind him.
Coming in hot.
Yeah. So if you're in front of James, Vanessa, and Verhoek, what I would do is just ease back slightly to allow them to catch you.
They're with me in our sections.
Yeah. Yeah, you will find that James's groups, now that they're together, a larger group will always travel much quicker than individuals. So
What Derek said. Usually, if you do a breakaway, you're by yourself. You usually need about 1 watt per kilo more than a group of about 4 or 5 chasing you.
yes,
Any group bigger than that, there's just no point because they'll just trench you every time.
and this is the whole point of James's racecraft. You know, learn when to make an effort on your own solo. But to be honest, at this point, if you were in a race and at this point, 12 minutes into, shall we say, a 1 hour race, you'd want to be in a group. You wouldn't want to be out front on your own wasting energy, because you're going to get caught. And the savings that you can make from drafting. I mean, look at, if you can, just look at the riders around you and see the ones that are using the wheels, and watch their watt kilos, how much energy they're saving.
In the draft, you can save a couple of 100 watts sometimes on the guy on the front if you're a couple of wheels back in big group.
We just to emphasize the savings that you can make with drafting and with clever riding. We had our Team 3R group ride last night on the Pienza course, and Luke, who's riding tonight, and Rob Stone took part in that, and they're very much stronger than almost anybody else that comes along on the rides. Certainly, Rob is the strongest rider. Now he never really pushes himself to the limit, but he does push quite hard. And myself and Luke are able to stay with him purely and simply because of the amount of drafting we do. And that just wouldn't be possible. We wouldn't be able to stay as a group on the ride if we didn't draft and we didn't use the savings that we can get from drafting. So you can see Luke in front here. James is just about to catch him. And in fact, he's eased up to let them catch.
Look on the test. So the next thing to notice when you're drafting somebody and there's horse coming up, watch your avatar in the way that it behaves in relation to the guy in front that you're following. Now, what you should find is, as you're coming into a corner, If you're doing less watts, then you'll go on the inside positionally. If you're doing more watts, you should find that you go to the outside. That's because in physics engine, if you're doing more watts, then as soon as you're trying to overtake. So you can use that trick coming into a corner to get lower wattage, get on the correct side of it, then up your watts, to then block in from the inside line, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So give that through that.
Okay, folks, I'm going to repeat what James has just said for those that didn't quite catch it. What James was saying there was that if you increase your watts as you come into a corner, the software is going to determine that you're actually wanting to overtake. So increasing your watts when coming into a bend isn't necessarily the right move to make, because what you should be doing is you should be decreasing your effort slightly, and that will take you to the inside. The software won't try to put you on the outside. And then once you're actually into the bend and coming out, that's the time to put the power down. It sounds it sounds counterintuitive, but that's actually the way it works. I mean, I've learned that through doing James's Flemish races, Flemish for beginner races, where when I first started doing the races, I was coming in last or very close to last. And through learning the different drafting techniques and the different cornering techniques, I'm now able to get close to top 10 or even in the top 10 the last couple of rides. So there's a huge benefit to learning how the RGT engine works, and it's very close to real life. Is that Tom Gakes? The T Gakes? Does anybody know if that's Tom Gakes? Wow, I think it is. So you can see that once again the group has joined James. You've got quite a nice group now of real life humans rather than the bots. Okay, so as you're coming up to these sharp bends, practice what James has just been telling you. Ease off just as you're coming into the bend and see whether it takes you over to the inside line. And then put the power down just as you get past the apex. And also, if you've got the chance to read the chat that's going on screen, James is explaining exactly what's happening, and he's also explaining what happens when you're cornering. So if you get the chance to look at the chat as well as listening to us waffling on, then do that.
Sorry, we covered this a bit, but the one very powerful move you can pick on a course like this is when you're on the straight, you just get on the inside of the guy in front. So you've got the correct line coming into the corner you're going to take, and then you really put some power down just before you hit the corner to get ahead of him, then power out as well. You'll leave them for dust at the time.
Yes. So you can see Rob Stone is currently riding on his own. He's just in front of, well, he's a decent way in front of James now, but he's riding on his own. At a nice steady 3 watt kilos, give or take. But watch what happens when he starts to approach the bend here. Okay, so he's coming up to one now. And absolutely perfectly through it. He doesn't ease up, he doesn't speed up, he just goes through the turn. Just looks so smooth going through these turns because he's keeping the same cadence. If you look at his cadence, it doesn't change in the bends. The same power. And that's the way to ride if you are out and on your own. There's no point in powering into the corners and powering out. Save your wattage until you've actually got somebody to ride with. I'm flicking through the field now, folks, just to see where people are. So let's. This is the main. This, as you can see, this is the main group. This is Morgan and Luke and company.
I was just listening up on the text about how we've probably all been dropped off the back of a strung out group before. And the reason for that, you've probably heard it on bike racing Tour de France coverage, is this idea of the elastic band, the concertina effect. So what will happen, you'll group up going into the corners, everybody breaks. And then as everybody comes out, they'll string out. And then what happens in addition to that, somebody attacks a little bit off the front. They'll string out entirely at the back, the draft will snap, and you'll get dropped. So this is good to know for 2 reasons. A, try and stay close, put the power down as you're coming out the corner so you don't get dropped. And B, if you are on the front, you can use that trick to drop the people behind you. So if you can, if you're on the front, give that a go, whack some power on coming out of the corner, and then use your look behind button to see what effect that has. Or look at the distances on the left-hand side of the screen with the riders behind you. Here we go.
Okay, I can't see Kate tonight. Is Kate not taking part? I thought she was going to come along.
To work, unfortunately, so passes on her regards.
Oh, okay, that explains it then. I've just gone through the whole field looking for her and can't find her, so yeah. So I'm back with Luke again, and you can see that he's joined this this decent sized group. But look at the way he's sitting in the middle, and absolutely, you know, he's there and thereabouts, always near the front end of the race or of the ride if it's a group ride. But he does so little work because he's just such a good, sensible rider. Again, as you can see, he's about 6 wheel back here. Very rarely puts his nose in front. because this, I mean, his group are, the people at the front of the group are pushing over 4 kilos. So they're not hanging about, they're doing pretty quick. You've got Rob Stone pushing another group out front. Can't find you, James. I don't know where you've gone to. Let's. There you are. There we are.
Just
Just found you. Just found you now. Yes. Yeah. There's Rob just going past you. And there was a perfect example of what James was telling you earlier. I don't know if you saw, guys, but if not, replay the footage later. Rob Stone, what he did there was he came past the guy that was just in front of him, just as they were going into the bend, and got the inside line and then powered out of it. And the riders behind him had to sprint to get on his wheel. So that's a perfect example of how you can drop riders. Okay, I'm going to have to jump on my bike now just to make sure we stay in the event. That should be enough. Have a bit of luck. Check actually. Yeah, there we go. Just making sure it's showing me power. Okay.
Well, I was just making the point about a good place to attack. That's to look out for lap drivers. If you're on a circuit like this and you have traffic in front of you coming up fairly regularly, look out for them. And if you can take that to the corner, more the better. Look out for the traffic ahead, make an attack, bridge over to them, and then what will happen is the guys that are following you over will either hopefully get confused about where you are and maybe lose sight of you in the traffic, or B, and even better, sort of corner. They get also braked as you come flying out. They'll get stuck behind the slower riders that you just come past. Very powerful attack. You can get it from. Okay, so I think that sort of chat and instruction for me now. This last half an hour, we'll have some fun. I'll ride around a bit. If anybody wants to shout out to me, get me to follow them, follow my wheel. If they want to practice on me, then do that, or I can insist on waiting to catch up with you anyway.
Yes, the great thing about a course like this, with it being such short laps, is that there's plenty of opportunity if you do get dropped to either drop back and catch the group coming up behind you, or to speed up a little and try and catch the group in front. So there's lots of opportunities to ride with other riders. You're never having to ride on your own.
left hand coming on top of the back right off the juice. Hope you try and maintain a sort of inside-ish line. Or 1%.
Yes, you did. I watched it. Yeah, that worked quite well, James.
So this next side-ish, but I want to be on the inside of the next one. Parallel. Ease off. Parallel out.
Yeah,
You get that right, we come up the inside of the day, see that?
yes. We're watching you live now.
See if I can get it. Not a good line.
No, you were too far back in that one. I'm going to zoom in on you this corner so that folks can see what's happening. So perfect line there through that bend, and this next one, yeah. So there you go, folks. This is a masterclass. James is showing you how you take the bends. Look at the way 2 second wheel and then 1 first wheel through the corners. You can't do much better than that. And back out to the front again by speeding up. So slow down, get to the front, slow down, go through the corner first. And then you can actually, if you watch his figures, so while watching James, if you look over to the left-hand side of the screen and watch James's figures, you can figure out what's going on. You can work out exactly what he's doing, when he's easing off and when he's putting the power down. And that's what I'm doing. I'm watching James live, but I'm also watching when he's putting the power down, when he's taking his foot off the gas. I mean, look at the gap he got there to the man behind. He got a 9 meter gap there just by putting in a couple of second effort. And if he was to keep that going after establishing the gap, then there's a good chance that on most courses he would be able to create a gap.
Nice crappy.
Yeah.
Going into the corner. Take the outside line and move them out of place. That's correct, yeah. Be careful on it. Nudge it right. I was trying to overtake this group of guys who were catching just before the corner. But in doing so, I went wide and half of the group came past me. Yeah, I'm used to it. You know, I pop it up and watch back this video, you'll see that I mess it up. That's why I can start following me.
But this last section that you've been doing, James, has been really instructional. I mean, just watching you on screen now, it's superb. So well done for this.
Nice smooth line. Bravo.
Sounds like hard work, James.
So then,
It sounds like hard work.
so yeah.
It's okay, you're captured on live stream. I can edit it.
Well, these guys very now, I think.
Okay, let's zoom out and just get a good look at the course then. So, that Mr. Brask is not hanging about. He's putting in some good efforts.
I really enjoyed it. It was really useful. I learned a lot of new things here. So thanks a lot.
It's a pleasure.
So the last week we did not that and didn't finish the instructions. So
No, they're just rolling round, James. By the look of it, at the moment, I'm just swapping view around now to see if I can find any larger groups, but basically split up now. There's small groups, but there's no really large groups anymore.
it's just falling apart.
Yeah, it's just gone. It's blown apart now, I think. Yeah, yeah, that's right. They're just in front of you. IK. What I'm noticing is that some riders are taking like a lap out just to recover and then going hard again, which is pretty sensible if if you're pushing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the sort of course where you really got pushed coming in those corners. You're probably sprinting for the finish line as well when you come in. So
Yeah.
it's like a little so,
Some good riding though. There's a Ice SDW. I don't know what his name is, but he's riding around at a fair old lick, overtaking people.
what are you? How are you finding it? Is it being useful for you? Okay, cool. Yeah. So you do have to be a little bit careful in a stronger race, because people will kind of try and pain it going into the corner. So you need to kind of on the power, but not too much to kind of keep that inside. And then it's still like hard coming out to keep with the group.
Yeah, it doesn't take long to pick it up. To become good at it takes a while, but to actually pick up the idea of drafting, um, after getting my backside kicked so many times, I decided to watch a couple of Jonathan Crane's videos. He's very clued up. I mean, he basically explained how to hold a wheel to me, and I started to use that knowledge and started to improve. So it's nice to see your take on it, James. I mean, you've shown in real time tonight exactly how it's done. So hopefully, if people watch this video, those that haven't made the race tutorial can watch the video.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. I feel they're going to come out and if everybody's still ready, we're going to go on the race.
Talking about racing, are you going to do the handicap tomorrow night? Yeah, that's why I'm helping to promote it so much, because Riley asked me to sort of like, would I cover it and would I try and give it a bit of promotion? Uh, because Cycling Weekly supposedly are coming along. So,
So, bring it on.
well, it's good for teams as well. If you can get a good team turnout with the jersey and everything else. I mean, OTR have got one of the biggest teams, haven't they? And um, it'd just be nice. I'm hoping. I've asked my boys over on Swift, Team 3R, to come across, but I don't know whether they will or not.
Fingers crossed. I mean, they're mixing on, they have 2, 3, 1,000 pieces.
Oh, my group rides over on Swift, James. I've had as many as over 500 riders on group rides, which is you know, it's unfathomable when you sort of like try and compare it. But
I mean, people often say OTR are one of the bigger clubs on RGT, and we're like 65, 70 riders.
yeah,
So there you go. There's a shot of lots of a couple of thousand, is it?
yeah. I mean, you've got group rides over on Swift, like you've obviously got the herd now over on RGT, but over on Swift, they can have up to 1,000 riders. You know, I mean, they take in the southern hemisphere on a lot of their rides, and they get all the Aussies and yeah, huge rides.
Cool. So yeah, I think we can both great one day, but everybody needs to get money into the RGT pockets as well, so they can continue to develop a great product for us.
I still,
More people.
yeah, there's a way to go, but I'm very excited by the platform because I don't know, it's just it feels more realistic. I mean, I've had those with the elastics, the graph elastics are really difficult to break. Not the case on here. You know, if you can put in a big 7, 8, 9, 10 watts per kilo attack for 10 seconds, you can snap it. Yeah.
And somebody comes with you think you can get away. You know, 2 or 3 down breakaway.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I used to watch a lot of the Swift races, but I got bored with them because they're all more or less the same. It's almost impossible when you get to the upper levels and you're watching like the elite races or the A races or even the better B races. It always comes down to a sprint at the end because nobody can break away.
Yeah.
You know, once the huge group are drafting and flying along, that sticky draft makes it almost impossible to jump off the front. Whereas here on RGT, like you say, James, if you put in a big effort, you can establish a gap. I mean, keeping it's a different matter, but you can put in a gap. Oh, that was a good turn, James. Okay, take care.
I have a lot of racing experience on grid, but I only did a few on RGT. Already know it's very different. That's great to hear, and thank you for coming along. It's a very different skill, and tactics and technique is even more important than it is on grid. So thanks for learning. No worries, we're here the same time next week. You're going to come back for more practice, yeah? Okay, now.
Nice bend. So, folks, I hope you have picked up on what James is showing you tonight, because I think this has been, it's certainly for me. I mean, I think I've got a clue about RGT, but I've learned quite a bit just from watching James's masterclass tonight. There's a couple of points here where, and that's the thing, James. I think no matter how much experience you've got, you can always learn something. You know, this is a nice little group you're with now, though.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I've noticed. Yeah. That SDW, the lad in the yellow and red shirt, he's a strong rider. Are you sorry? What's your name? Ian. Okay, Ian. Yeah, strong riding, mate. Okay.
very well. I've pushing it along.
When I was back, sorry, when I was back in the UK, I rode for a club called Huddersfield Star Wheelers, and the kit you're wearing is very, very much like their kit, red and yellow. Yeah, but strong riding. You're looking good. Don't you just love those bots, though, Amy? Just absolutely cruising it. Oh, there you go. James first through the bend. Now look at the gap he created there, folks, with just a few pedal strokes and then immediately eased up. Now imagine if he managed to keep that power going for like 10 seconds. James could very, very quickly open up, what, a 30, 40 metre gap in that time? I mean, he's got 15 metres now and he's not even trying, so you can...
Sitting a couple of bends, making it take and give it out for what's the deal and see what happens.
Yeah, but it's very instructional, James, because it's showing just how possible it is to get a gap. You know, you go through off the front and then kick it. And if this was a race situation and you got one of your teammates going with you,
try and keep the eye on this next one. Actually, so we'll take this one, then we take the next one, try and get on the inside of that, and then try and set it up the straight. And see, Amy's canning, she's pushing me out wide at the cow.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
So I'm going to use someone's wheel for a second and get acceleration.
There we go. You away.
Very well. I'll leave that to forward. Who's coming with? Not quite long enough to get the inside bit though. I'll just keep the floor on. You might get a couple of rock and come past this before the one can.
Yeah, but you see, Ian's putting out 5 watt kilo and not getting close to you. He is now. He's caught you now, but only because you eased up.
Yeah. So there you go. That was like 5 seconds.
Yeah. And like I say, if you kept that going for 10, for 10 seconds, you'd have a significant gap.
The second's a good example of how it stretches out when you go out quite slightly. Probably the same on this next, not this one, but the next one as well. So watch this next one, a little string out a bit, so it gets a bit hard on the front. Maybe get it a little bit. How canny it is, everybody trying to get the inside line. Need a box for it though. Come on guys, come pedal in. Spin, 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 spin. Nice.
Yeah. Oh, hang on. I think that's me out of the. I don't know whether it'll let me back in. I don't think it will. No, I forgot to get on the bike, James, so I've lost the last 5 minutes. Well, the last couple of minutes, not 5 minutes, the last couple of minutes. So you can still hear me, but you can't see me. I'll say good night. Very, very instructional. Thanks a lot for doing this, James.
Same time next week, everyone.
Okay. I'll see you tomorrow night with a bit of luck. I'll see you tomorrow night. I'm covering that as well. Okay. Okay, folks, so that's it. If you haven't already, hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed, why not? Subscribe to the channel. And as you can see on screen, you've got Torm cycling jerseys. They're our sponsors. So give them a shout out as well. That's it for tonight. Take care and we'll see you later.